Hello and welcome to the week 15 recap of my particular journey into healing. So I've been doing this for 15 weeks. I am starting my 16th week, 105 days, though I've been doing it off and on for an entire year. Though, if you want to be technical, I've been doing the carnivore diet or a carnivore-based diet practically my entire life, because growing up, I would always choose the meat over the fruits and vegetables. I've always been a meat-based person, and it's something I've always liked. So I do want to kind of discuss a few different little things. Largely is kind of a focus on how the last week has been on the diet, and for the most part, it's been fairly lovely. So like most of my meals was burger, a lot of hamburger. The first half of the week was baked chicken cooked inside of bone broth and almost a 3-pound chunk pot roast that took like 8 hours to cook. And I typically cook it on a slower thing with like seasoning and spices and everything, because the seasonings, the spices are what keeps me eating this way. The flavor and the way it just kind of like springs to life on the tongue really keeps my mind and my interest in the meat, instead of going towards something that'd be a lot less healthy, that has a lot of flavors that comes from like preservatives and other things they put inside the food to make it taste good. Outside of that, I've had like eggs and bacon like one day out of the week, something I'm not super used to actually eating on a daily basis. I am used to eating like the same foods day by day by day, with the occasional shift towards like the pot roast or towards the chicken. I did eat fried chicken a couple of times when a friend and I went over to the town over to go donate some clothes to Goodwill. And one day we ate, like 2 of the days we ate like some of the fried chicken, and then a different day we went to Arby's and I had ordered like 2 half-pound beef and cheddars, and with like no bun. And the second one I wasn't even able to finish. And I don't really think there's too much else food-wise on top of that. I've had ice cream a couple of times over the week. One of them did have a little bit of candy in it. Went to Sonic, got a Reese's Blast, got a small one, and that was hard to finish. And I haven't actually had like candy in over like 2 weeks at this point. Haven't had soda even longer, which is a big thing for me because I am a soda addict. I'm a Coke addict, which makes me sound like a drug addict. But if you actually want to be technical, you could actually consider it a drug, because it triggers the same receptors in the brain that actual cocaine triggers. So sugar is a drug. Don't let anyone else tell you otherwise. A big point of notice is that I can fit inside of an extra large. That's what I'm wearing. I'm more comfortable in the dress I'm wearing, because that's what I typically wear nowadays. Is I stick to dresses and skirts. I'm trying to embrace a more feminine nature. I am trying to be what I am meant to be, to put it bluntly. And, part of that has to deal with like the spiritual healing I've been undergoing, and which is one thing I have a really big interest in. I have a whole host of, this entire page is just covered with like possible ideas for Wednesday's video. Some of it dealing with like motivation, ways to deal with depression, overcoming anxiety, sugar cravings, negative self-talk, actual spirituality. And part of it's also like shifting mindsets from more of a Western approach to an Eastern approach, which is partially the spirituality that I've been delving into is definitely Eastern. And I was really hooked into that in the beginning, largely because, my sister and everything, and then I went to church with her, and then there was the liturgy and the music and the choir. The choir is what drove in pretty deep. Is I love liturgical chants. I love the songs. I love the hymns and everything that they sing, and they do it all a cappella. They don't have like the flashy guitars. They don't have the smoke bombs on the stage or anything like that. And it's just super peaceful. I super enjoy it. It might not be everyone's cup of tea, but I enjoy it. I find peace. The depression, it helps with the depression. And the people there are super kind. They're super encouraging. And, a lot of them actually have people in their own families that have done or are doing a carnivore diet because they have health issues that they're trying to rectify. And a lot of the others are doing more of like kind of like a ketovore or even like a paleo or whole food diet. And mostly everyone's like getting away from processed foods because they've all noticed that it's bad for your health. So, you know, there's that. Another thing that's happened is that my friend, one of the days, she actually bought me a scale a little over a week ago. We were talking, and you know, one of the things I was actually kind of used to is at my old job, I'd weigh myself like 3 times a week just to kind of keep a general idea to see how the scales are shifting and reflecting different changes I'm making. Especially as someone who's overweight and losing weight, the scale will often kind of reflect some of that. And part of it, being aware of like using a scale, for instance, is knowing that sometimes what it's reading is like water weight. It could be food that hasn't fully left the system yet. And just like this whole other factor, like even not getting like a proper amount of sleep can actually affect the scale. And the one I have, it's like a full range. So not only does it do like the weight, but it checks like the fat percentage, like how much like water weight there is, muscle, bone. It also does like the kcal and the BMI. And you know, a lot of it's probably not like 100. It's not 100% accurate. It's never going to be 100% accurate because it can't really read that, but it can give a general idea. And so I've been kind of tracking that. And this month compared to last month, just like based off of the numbers, I've lost about 7 pounds, which, it's decent. I wasn't expecting it. And the lowest I got was 247 pounds, almost 248. And that was largely, I ate one meal the day before. I ate it in the morning, and I did not eat anything for the rest of the day. And then I weighed myself the next morning, and that's what my weight was. So that was like a fully empty stomach, no food in there, no like, any excess water was already pushed out of the body. And that was just that weight. And generally when I'm on the scale, it's usually a little bit higher because there is some food that's still in there that hasn't fully left the system. So there is that. And another thing is that if you're shifting from one lifestyle to another, being aware that there are going to be adjustments is extremely important, which is something that I really had to kind of remind myself of, because I went from a job where I was not very active to one where I'm walking a lot and I'm doing a lot of movements. And then, on the days where I do walk home, it takes anywhere from 40 minutes to an hour, just depending on how tired I am. And the first couple of days, like from the waist down, everything was rock hard and I couldn't really twist or bend because everything was just taut and jammed shut. So I had to spend a lot of time self-massaging the muscles to get them to loosen up, along with a lot of stretching, and then spending a couple of hours on a heating pad until that all warmed up and the worst of the pain went away. So there was that. Another big thing, which is I actually wrote down, is that some of the things that I am actually trying to do, which I'm focusing on, is I've mentioned in one of the last videos, it was either the last video or the one right before that, I am removing myself from social media. I am essentially already off of social media. I'm not on Facebook, don't really do Instagram or anything like that, but I'm also moving away from like being on my phone a lot of times, not staying a lot of time on the computer, not spending a lot of time watching TV. And so like first thing in the morning, for instance, when I wake up, which is usually anywhere between 5 to 8 o'clock in the morning, get up, go to the bathroom, brush my teeth, and then I'll spend time like cleaning or reading or just, sitting in quiet. Or I might be listening to like liturgical chants that I really enjoy listening to. But at nighttime, I try to be in bed before midnight. And I try to make sure that I'm not like using the computer or playing videos on the phone or anything an hour or 2 hours before going to bed, just depending on however that works. And, that's just kind of how I do that. And one thing I really do, and it's one thing I actually had to kind of write for myself, but a big thing that I've actually kind of noted is that when it comes to healing the body, it is a slow process. Healing does not occur overnight. The way we are today, where we are right now, it is the result of years of choices we have made. And where we are right now is a direct symptom and result of choices we made in the past. And knowing that who we want to be in the future, the body we have in the future, the health we have in the future, that person in the future who is not here yet is going to be a direct result of the choices we make today and onward. So, that's a really important part. And part of that is like learning about our bodies. It's learning about what we can do and what we cannot do. It's about knowing what our limits are and honoring those limits while also pushing them a little bit. Especially like in my case, I am not very flexible. My body's very locked. It's very tense. I don't have very good range of motion like I did 5 years ago. So a lot of it's like, implementing the stretching. Like I know what my current limit is because if I try to go past it, it hurts. But I know just going a little above that, just barely over what I can tolerate and just holding it for a little bit, within a week, I can stretch further than I had before, which is an important thing to know. And kind of the last thing is that when it comes to changes, especially if you're overcoming bad habits, is one thing at a time. Don't try to cold turkey everything all at once. A lot of times that when you try to cut everything at once, it's going to create a lot of stress in the body, especially if it's a lot of changes. The body has to adapt. And as someone who deals with an eating disorder and someone that typically falls back on old patterns by default, a lot of times I fall in things that I've done for years without really thinking about it. That if I put too much stress on my body and on my general life, I'm going to revert back to old habits. And so by just removing one thing, I still have the comfort of the old things that are still not 100% good for me. But I'm still taking one thing out that's bad. And one little thing, time by time by time, is going to build up in months from now. And there's going to be a noticeable result then compared to now. It's a slow process, yes. But it's also one that's going to last a lot longer. And especially now that I'm focusing on trying to make it more of a lifestyle than just a crash diet. So that's just kind of my 2 cents for this video for the week. It's not the most interesting, I imagine, but I am doing this largely as a way because I do have short-term memories. And so I want to be able to look back and see where I was, what choices I made, and kind of be able to determine how I'm progressing. And I have quite a few different things I want to talk about in the next video, which is going to be coming out on Wednesday. So if you liked any of this, leave a like. You can share your thoughts, your comments, your own struggles, things you've done to actually help yourself get further inside of your own journey down in the comments. And if you'd like to see more, please subscribe. So until then, I'll see you all next time. Have a nice day or night.